Hello, I'm the Bearded Behaviorist, Brian,
I'm Warlock. I'm Bob.
and this is our second podcast. If you're joining us at 12:30 in the morning on a Thursday,
For Pete's sakes, go to sleep.
go to sleep. We should go to sleep too. All right, short podcast. We're done.
Nailed it.
Just kidding. All right,
Nailed it. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. All right. First off, this episode of Bearded Behaviorist is brought to you by Noggin Games in Cedar City, a family-friendly local shop that made me the awesomest dice. This is a Bearded Behaviorist logo, custom made,
Nice.
and they also did me the favor of putting on my dice WTF, as in, what's the function?
That's the function.
More merch coming our way soon. All right, that's on you, bud.
I make merchandise. I don't know if you noticed. I'm covered in merch.
I'm covered in merch too.
I designed this for him. Fozzie Bear, Waka Waka the Lion. I Waka Waka. We're just, a couple like tasty fat guys.
Yeah.
Wearing tasty cool things and like.
So yeah, check out legendmasters.com. Check out Noggin
Tasteful?
Games.
Is that what I meant?
Tasteful, possibly.
Tasty.
Check out Noggin Games on Facebook. They're really excellent. They can order stuff for you if you're not based in Cedar City, Utah. But they're excellent, family-friendly company that, frankly, has supported me a lot. They actually let me bring students to their shop to play games, and they ask nothing, which is why I regularly buy things for them, and then from them, and they insist that I don't have to which my response is, shush and take my money, because they're awesome. They're wonderful folks. They need to be, more people need to be in business like these people.
They're sort of the kings of customer service. You go in there and they just, I'm not going to say they wait on your hand and foot. They just pay attention to what you actually want and lead you around the shop and be like, hey, what about this?
They take care of you. And that's,
take care of you.
And not knocking folks on Amazon and all that, but you can't get better service than that. It's worth a little bit extra price to get that excellent service. That's what we're looking for.
Customer service makes you feel not lonely.
Yes. And that ties nicely into what we're going into, which is there a problem with social media? And looking at it from a behavioral perspective. So social media and behavior. Let's rewind history. Let's rewind history about 300 to 2,000 years, maybe even longer. And let's ask a very important question. Back then, was there something behaviorally similar to social media? And I would argue the answer is yes. It's this old-fashioned thing that most people don't even use nowadays, or if you do, it's because your grandma sent it to you, a letter. Now, whether you were writing in petroglyphs or cuneiform or on clay tablets or papyrus or paper or whatever it is that you were using at the time, crafting of a letter and sending it resulted in a dopamine hit.
Yes.
When somebody receives a letter, they open it up, they see it, they receive reinforcement for receiving that letter. Which, if they know how to read, or if someone reads to them, in the case of those people who are illiterate but who receive letters from home, frequently talked about in historical texts for soldiers who are overseas that didn't know how to read, and their commander would read for them, that sort of thing. That was one of the reasons that that was one of the many reasons why officers were needed to be literate. Is hey, welcome to the video, Nathan. You're up way too late, but welcome. We love having you. Okay, so receiving letters. When somebody would receive a letter and a commander would read it for them because they were literate, or they would read it themselves if they knew how to read it, then they would receive a dopamine hit, which would reinforce the desire to continue to communicate. And that's a function of communication. That's actually one of the functions is social reinforcement. We receive social attention, which means
I'm using social media right now.
Yes, you are.
It's very rewarding because I'm selling some of our products
on social media.
On social media.
Yes, exactly.
So that's pretty rewarding.
That is pretty rewarding.
Right now it's rewarding.
Right now it's rewarding. Also, so receiving the reinforcement for that. Now, we fast forward to about, let's call it 200 years ago. Please don't kill me, other historians. I promise I'm being inaccurate on purpose. Not really. I can't remember.
That was like a joke.
It was like a joke, but it wasn't. Anyways, so the reinforcement that came from the telegram was wonderful because people could receive that reinforcement much faster. It was near instantaneous. All it was is you go down to the telegraph office and you write out the thing and you pay so many cents per word and you say stop in between each word. Hi, honey, stop. I'm sending you a message from the Atlantic coast. Stop. That's how we all talk over here. Stop.
Oh, that old-timey transatlantic accent.
Primarily because there was not a lot of bass tones in the speakers. That was fun. But anyways, same effect. You get a dopamine hit, and it reinforces the desire for you to connect and communicate with those around you. Okay, let's fast forward further into the future. Alexander Graham Bell creation of the telephone. Fast communication back and forth. So excited to receive a phone call. I remember being a little kid and the phone would ring on the wall and all of us kids would race to the phone to be the first one to pick it up. It didn't matter if it was a stinking telemarketer. We wanted to pick up that phone so that we knew who was on the other end because we received that dopamine hit when we said Middleton's residence or something like that. That's what our parents taught us to say. So, we had to do it the way mom and dad said. But at any rate, dopamine hit. Fast forward a little bit further. The internet, Yahoo, discussion boards, it was a huge deal for me as a kid. I had a little pen pal with a young lady in Michigan that I had a little bit of an internet crush on. And I would check every couple hours doing that dial-up internet to try to be able to get that dopamine hit from hearing her reply to the most nonsensical things. MySpace, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, whatever. We're now in the time of instantaneous communication. We get a notification in our pocket. We get a ding, a bing, or whatever it is that sound is.
So you get some Pavlovian stimulus that's paired.
Yeah. But then when you see it, you're getting a social reinforcement that reinforces your desire to do that.
That makes you think you're not alone.
And the issue is not that in my estimation, the issue is not that there's a problem with social media, because this mechanism has been in existence since humanity has been in existence. The problem is the pace of the reinforcement is so thick as a schedule that because we don't have a mechanism to deal with this, there's a lot of people who are dealing with addiction. There can be too much connection, or rather there's not enough of the other types of connection. The connection is like looking into this guy's eyes and smiling at him, winking at him, telling him that he's my best bud and I love him. He's awesome.
This is my cousin, by the way, so it's even creepier.
It's really creepy.
No, but let's talk about this feed schedule of stimulus. We'll compare an imaginary bar graph. Something like proximity of physicality versus interaction. So one of the things, I have this suspicion, strong suspicion, it's not even a working hypothesis, something along the lines of when you're around people, let's say gathered around a fire, any old fire will do, doesn't really matter. Gathered around a fire, there are smells involved. It's engaging your ears, your eyes, all right, but it's also engaging touch. It's engaging your olfactory system, your sense, and scent is, a really peculiar smell, peculiar mechanism because it bypasses the whole neocortex, goes straight into memory. That one, your chemo senses, as in your tongue and things like that. These things aren't, operating in the abstract, and I have a suspicion that some kind of combination of wilderness and the simplification of stimulus around a fire at night and the gathering, you're in the wilderness of some sort where humans have always been until now. There's got to be some kind of interplay there where people are getting lonelier and lonelier, and they're watching way more porn. And I just saw some statistics. Americans are having way less sex than they've ever been having, and they're looking at way more porn. And I'm like, wait a minute. We're attached to social media way more. We don't go and hang out with our friends. People are depressed. They're canceling appointments. And I think these things are connected.
Yeah, and so the problem, in my estimation, is not social media, but rather mechanisms for helping us disconnect. I'm a big fan of technology. I love technology. It's a great thing. It's actually helped me to overcome a lot of the challenges that I've had being autistic. And in fact, there's a lot of indication that the technology we have nowadays is actually the brainchildren of the autistic neurotype, which previous to these last more recent few generations, since basically the 70s moving forward, we were second-class citizens at best. And sometimes even worse than that, being accused of being possessed by demons.
Well, you most definitely are.
Yes, I am. I have plenty of great messages because I am truly a demon that delivers information.
No, I mean, you're possessed by demons, especially when I cook that delicious curry fried chicken. Wait a couple hours, demons come out.
Demons come out. All right. Anyway, so, but the point being that this mechanism for communication has come from people who want to communicate and want to connect, but have struggled for many, many years and have found some great ways of doing it. And yet it's one or two functions of communication out of the many that we have. Sight, smell, touch, taste, the intricacies of language, tonality, eye contact. When you look into another human's eyes, it's releasing other chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, things like that. And while the autism neurotype has generally, not always, a struggle with that, it's still and something that we need, and everybody needs. And so
why is that?
Well,
if you don't mind my asking, is that a conversation for another day?
I think that's a conversation for another day. But I will say simply, whether you believe we're created or evolved, I happen to believe that whatever deity created us or did not create us possibly used evolution as a part of our creation process. There's plenty of evidence to indicate towards that. But the point is, it's part of who and what we are. It's at our very core. And so we need to have that connection and that communication. And we need to be connected to nature. And sometimes we see the craziness that happens in cities. And I think a lot of that has to do with a disconnection from nature. The cities that I've noticed that have a lot more parks and a lot more natural feeling environments, this is all hypothesis, by the way. I have zero proof for this. But I have noticed that in those cities that I have visited, like Nashville, for example, things tend to be a little bit less nutso.
I could describe a couple of conditions. I mean, really recently on the NIH.gov, the National Institute of Health, there was more than one article released about earthing, as in receiving free electrons from the earth, which neutralize or help neutralize free radicals in the body, thereby reducing inflammation.
There's research that shows that being around trees release free radicals that help deal with, release ions that help deal with free radicals, things like that.
And chemicals that help you basically regulate. Like, turns out if a human is operating in their natural habitat, they seem to do better than when you isolate them in an inflammation maximizing environment.
Surprise, surprise. So, message there, get out into nature. But along the lines with that, also connect with the people around you. Actually connect. Sit down and have a meal with them. That's why it's really important to have family meals, because then you connect and you talk, and you're actually stimulus pairing, which is an applied behavior approach to things. You're pairing the vital thing you need, food, with your relationship with people, therefore making it better for you and your family to connect and communicate. And so going back to social media, specifically in relation to children, when I have kids, hopefully soon, I am going to be very strict on the social media, like extremely strict. And I'm going to be also strict on the amount of screen time they get for other things, including videos, just because of how dangerous it is for young brains to be exposed to that too frequently. Now, I'm not going to do no, mainly because that's just setting me up for failure. The kids are going to rebel. They're going to, but
it just makes them smarter. It makes them more
makes them more crafty and better liars. And I don't want my kids to lie to me. I want to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stimulus pair desirable behaviors like thinking problems through, like being organized and clean, like eating your vegetables. Come on, like getting your homework done, like reasoning and thinking processes, those sorts of things with this as a reinforcer. So I'm going to be strategic in how I do it. But my kids are not going to get a touchscreen smartphone device until they're 14 to 16 years old. And then I'm still going to be requiring them to impose limits just because of how dangerous it can be for a young brain that doesn't impose limits. And I'm doing this myself to myself as we speak. So kids, my future kids, when you watch this right now, you're going to hold me to that because you're going to see Dad when he's younger and fatter, because I'm going to get skinny people.
Why would they watch this?
I don't know. Maybe they won't. Yeah, your old man's sending you a message from
the most boring thing you could just. They're like, no, I want to watch whatever the new show is.
Yeah, something else.
Let me ask you a question.
Adventure Times as opposed to Adventure Times.
Oh, Adventure Time? Past tense,
yes.
Predator, it's done. It's been time to get in the Pop quiz. Okay.
Pop quiz.
So, I would. Something was indicated to me. Basically, I mean, this is kind of a distillation of many conversations. The fact that the internet exists is probably due to autistic people, generally. Most innovation, I'm not going to say most innovation, but it really seems like a lot of innovation comes from the people with autistic neurotypes, and this has led us to the point of interacting in an autistic way. So when a neurotypical person uses technology to engage in social media, a couple things happen. Number one, context, tone, and a couple other things that would be body language that a neurotypical would include in their conversation are stripped away from the communication, and effectively being online makes us all operate autistically.
Which is why I'm starting to use emojis more in my communications, even in professional communication, although I'm very sparse in that, because emojis insert, and I know there's a stupid movie that was made. I watched it. It was difficult.
I'm grateful that I didn't.
You be grateful you didn't. But at any rate, emojis are a great way of indicating some tone, or perhaps maybe parentheses sarcasm, parentheses out, or things like that.
Another component was now this one is one of the more common and I've seen more common factors in an autistic mindset where there is a commonality of I would say I would describe it as two factors, but really it's probably one. Rigidity of thought and the importance of everything all at once, which is like you could describe that socially as something like, and I want to pick my words with some caution because I don't feel like stepping on all the toes and starting another fight, but something along the lines of...
You're going to get fight started.
That's fine.
Whatever.
Something along the lines of, if everything's important all the time, it must provoke a lot of anxiety, while from the outside of that mindset, I'm like, wow, why can't you like keep this in perspective? Now, I just got in a fight with a formerly very dear friend of mine who is autistic. His approach is way more maladaptive, and he never really put his, I'm going to call it a gift. He never put his gift to use, his talent to use. Autistic minds tend to innovate. And this guy never really did. And
well, this is where applied behavior comes in. This
Yeah.
is the reason why I'm becoming a bearded behaviorist.
but it's that if everything's important all the time, online you end up bickering over what might seem like the smallest of things, and that produces a propensity in just about everyone to bicker about the least significant things over which any given individual might have just no influence. And I think that's sort of like the delineation between something that you have. Do you have no control over this? Well, what's the point of fighting over it? To get yourself wound up over nothing? Over something you have no control over?
Yeah.
And those are not the same thing. Is it over nothing? Maybe it's really important, but you have no control over it.
Well, and if we look at the functions of behavior, if we look at the functions of behavior, usually online social media fights function over a couple ways. Any attention is better than no attention, so that's the function one, which is social attention. And the other thing is the sense of satisfaction. There's a yes, I won this Facebook fight, or I won that Twitter battle.
And how do you win it? You humiliate, you devastate your opponent.
You get this sense of satisfaction and smugness, which is the fourth function, sensory. And then sometimes, for some people, you also get a couple other things. You could receive access to preferred activities or tangibles. Some people make money over being sensational. Our president. Every time the news media freaks out about anything that our good old boy Donnie says, they give him more attention, and he makes more money.
So he makes more.
So
does he make more money?
I think he makes more money because he gets more attention, and people are still paying attention to him, and they're still buying his products. I think there's a way that this gets back to him. This is all hypothesis. I don't know for sure, but there are other people too, like Kanye West and his stuff. There's a lot of sensationalized people who get those hits. They get that social reinforcement, and then get access to things, and then they get a sense of satisfaction. And then, of course, let's not forget the Tumblrverse.
Satisfaction through attention.
Satisfaction through attention.
Well, the Tumblrverse is
attention and escape.
The Tumblrverse
and a sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, the Tumblrverse is escape and like validation through uselessness. Like the more maximally useless they are.
Don't be too broad here. There are quite a few people on Tumblr who are not useless.
Okay, but anybody who's on Tumblr, you know who I'm talking about.
Well,
and I will hold you to that standard.
Well, frankly, Tumblr's probably dead. But
validation through failure to just even exist in their own skins safely.
Yeah. So
and by like the maximization of victimhood, but maximization of victimhood is attention.
So again, we can, like the point of all these live streams, like the point of all the articles that I have and will be writing, I'm trying to point out that behavior does not need to be a mystery. It does not need to be this magical thing that we don't understand. There are 4 functions to behavior, and I want the science of behaviorism.
What are those?
I will go over those in just a second.
Right.
I want the science of the behavior of behaviorism to be understood by more people, because the more people understand it, teachers, parents, ourselves, the more we can shape our own environment and improve ourselves and overcome the challenges we have, including the problems that my own people, autists, deal with. Because if we can analyze our own behavior and start reinforcing desirable behaviors, then we can overcome the challenges that we face. And this isn't exclusively to my folks, it's to all folks. But I have a motivation and I have a drive for that particular thing. So again, the 4 functions of behavior are social attention, access to tangibles or preferred activities, which is generalized into tangibles, the escape or avoidance, and then finally sensory. And all behavior can be boiled down to those 4 functions. And if we ask, WTF, what's the function? Then we can start understanding a little bit better. Now, as I mentioned before in previous live streams, at this point in time where we're recording this, I am not a board-certified behavior analyst. I am in training. I am a BAIT, behavior analyst in training. And I think that is freaking hilarious that I'm BAIT, guys. I'm just BAIT. Anyways, that's literally the terminology they use, and it's awesome. So I am in training, but I have 5 years of being a behavior special ed teacher under my belt. I have several semesters now of training to become a behavior analyst, lots of reading and delving and understanding. But the most important thing I need to clarify here is that I'm speaking in generalities. I'm not speaking to specifics. Even when I am a behavior analyst, I cannot and I will not provide any form of diagnosis or functional behaviorist assessments or things like that for you unless you are my client specifically. And if we have a personal relationship from the past or currently, I cannot, under my code of ethics and the board certified behavior analysts code of ethics, work with you directly. It'll have to be somebody that I refer you to, because that would be considered, as it is termed by the BACB, the Behavior Analyst Council Board. I forget what that stands for. I'm NGWA, guys. I'm not good with acronyms. Anyways, but that's specified by the board, and it's there for a good reason, because there are some things that can go wrong if behavior analysts do not hold ourselves to high standards. And I wholeheartedly agree with this and endorse it fully.
Well, I'm not held to any of those standards, and I will diagnose you the better I know you, because it doesn't count for anything. It doesn't count for anything. I'm an artist. What's wrong with you?
He's an artist and a cult leader. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm working on starting a cult. You should totally join my cult. The only rank is cultist, and whoever the prophet is of the week has to clean the toilets.
Yes. Yes.
So, to know who's really in charge.
Yes. Which is not the prophet.
Not the prophet. No. Okay. So.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you a question.
There's a knock at the door. I will answer the door. You keep talking.
All right. Well, I've got a question. Okay. If somebody is, you're saying access to. Hang on a second. Hang on a second, boss. We're recording something. If somebody is operating in such a fashion, let's say, I'll just give the hardcore situation. Somebody I don't know, wink nudge. Somebody I know.
Wink nudge. Okay.
Has this is just such a can of worms.
So many worms.
So many worms, like all the worms.
We don't have enough hooks for this worm.
No, nobody has enough hooks. Nobody's a good enough fisherman for these worms. This is like a subject of massive debate lately. It's so totally emergent in the social vernacular these days. Something along the lines of this. A young woman, girl, 14 years old, is operating with her friends. Her friends say, these are the new metrics. These are not the words they're going to use. They're going to say a number of things. And the conclusion of this girl was, well, I think I'm trans. I think I'm a boy. Well, she's into boys. Like most human beings, she's heterosexual. And so she says, well, hang on a second. If I'm just a straight girl who has accomplished nothing, I don't count for anything. I haven't accomplished enough. But if I say I'm trans, well, now I get a little bit of a social rank. Now people start paying attention to me. Well, shoot, I really want to date boys, she says.
So I'm gay.
So I'm a gay boy. She's gone right around the circle. She's like, now I'm a gay boy. Now by doing exactly what she was doing before, she's now gained levels of social validation without actually having to change any of her behavior.
Which are further validated in social media, which is the entire purpose of this conversation.
So is this, this is attention, but it's also something else.
Well,
it's almost tangible. It's like tangible, but it's more like rank within a dominance hierarchy.
So by having a higher social status, this individual
she gets access to
would get access to preferred activities and things.
And preferred activities in this case.
And any boy that she would date, by the definitions of that particular culture, would be gay, and so therefore would have also higher status within that social structure. So therefore, would
like
more
small localized social structure.
small localized social structure,
when I
and
share,
there would be some prestige, and that would be some sensory satisfaction there too.
okay.
And so this is kind of a hard thing to unhash because these are all theoretical, these discussions, and I don't know for sure.
Well,
Because I need to observe and I need to be able to understand, and also there needs to be more research on this area because there's not enough research. This is all hypothesis.
Yeah. No, I mean this is the situation I'm describing now is a hard, actual situation that actually happened to somebody I actually know.
Okay.
And so these teenagers, by not changing any of their behaviors, but by making claims.
Well, they are changing their behaviors. Their claims are a behavior. Behavior is anything okay. Behavior is anything that living organisms do.
Okay, fine.
So, me breathing is a behavior. Now, it's an autonomic behavior, but it's still a behavior.
I think breathing is in your behavioral repertoire.
Yes, it's necessary for me to be able to respirate. Me saying words, that's within my behavioral repertoire.
Okay.
You listening to what I am saying and either rolling your eyes or nodding your head, depending on what we're talking about, those are all behaviors. A good behavior test is if a mannequin can do it, as in just a store dummy, or perhaps a corpse, if you will, then it's not a behavior.
So, okay, so circumstantially, it seems like what these kids are doing, I mean, like, my suspicion is irrelevant to what, I have no idea what they're going through.
We're asking the question of what's the function of the behavior.
What's the function of the behavior? The function of the behavior seems to be, on the outcomes, it seems to be attention-seeking and preferred
activities, possibly possibly access to tangibles. There's probably some escape components going on there. Without being able to observe specifically, I can't tell you, but I can say that in this scenario, all of those possible functions could exist.
Okay.
And so bringing it full circle back to social media actually reinforces many behaviors because that's within our repertoire. Humans are social creatures. We need to interact together. If we don't interact together, if we don't have regular contact, regardless of what type of neurotype we have, we get depressed, we start having health issues, our stress levels go up, and we start having all sorts of problems. So, social interaction is necessary for our survival. And social interaction is necessary for our survival because when we work together, we're better. The fact that I can communicate with you right now over anywhere from 1 mile, actually 10 feet, to thousands of miles away on the other side of the planet, or even up on the space station, if you astronauts are up there, give me a thumbs up, are watching this, guess what? That's because our behavioral repertoire of working together has paid off.
And specialization has definitely paid off. You'll notice a lot of survivalists are just plain old-fashioned impoverished.
And maybe they're happy that way, but they still have to have some sort of interaction with others. And there are definitely neurotypes that are more interested in more social, and some neurotypes that are more interested in less social.
So when you say temperament, like if I were to use the word temperament, probably temperament, you might say neurotype?
Possibly. We don't know enough to know for sure, but neurotypes is definitely, we're seeing a lot of indicators for that. There could also be a history of reinforcement and punishment going for or against pro-social behavior. There's a lot of possible things that are going on there, and so we don't really know for sure until we get more research done. But those are all possible explanations for why.
Okay, now just to tie it back into the original subject matter, we're dealing with social media and behavior within the context of it being an old mechanism that has increased in its velocity.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen some behaviors change, possibly at a broader scale, possibly in a broader fashion, but also a more rapid fashion. The subject that I just brought up, there are transgendered, and then there's the transtrenders. People who, and I've seen some studies on this. It's like, I know I'm opening a can of worms. Political discourse, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's all politics. No, it's that when people are exposed to certain concepts, especially if they're operating within alienation, having an answer to their alienation without ever addressing maybe potential other underlying issues that might be extant. It's rapid, but it might also be a cop-out.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Jeff.
You should go to bed. It's really late.
Jeff.
Go to bed, Jeff. Okay.
All right, but it might be that information is moving so fast and trends are moving so fast that
we're getting overwhelmed.
And analysis, the mechanism of analysis takes time.
Analysis takes time. It's not instantaneous.
And trends can be boom, boom, boom,
It's
boom,
easy
boom,
to watch
oh.
a Now This video. It takes time and effort to research the information.
Yeah, it takes...
And sometimes we like that instantaneous information, quick feed, that sort of thing. And so to wrap this up, because Lucas is very patiently waiting for us.
Lucas.
And also, we don't want to go too long because we want people to be able to watch the video later and not be like, oh my gosh, a full hour, that's way too long.
Way too long.
So to wrap this up, my suggestion, and I think that there's enough research to back this up, is impose rules for yourself and beg your family, and if possible, give them structure for imposing these rules too. When it comes to social media, when it comes to video games, when it comes to these things, that before you can go to bed at night, you have to do X amount, and start little and work your way up. You have to do X amount that you define, let's say it's 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of time outside, X amount of time with your family, with the electronics turned off. Watching TV while eating food does not count. You need to be talking to each other. Okay, so spend time outside, spend time with your family, having conversation.
Through social media.
I scream at you through social media. Have your phones turned off or put away, and then periodically go a day without any electronic access. This is hard for me. I love audiobooks. I love spending time ingesting information. I love spending time on social media, but I have imposed this on myself as well, and it's difficult, but it's needed. And then when you accomplish this, reward yourself. Reward yourself in a variety of ways, including using social media and video games. They're not bad. They're not bad in and of themselves. They're just bad when the level is up to here and the level of natural interaction is...
His hand is way low to the ground. Just believe me.
It's touching the ground,
touching
people.
the floor, yeah.
It's touching the ground. Spend time with those that you love. Connect with people. Learn to solve your problems. Go out. Enjoy a nice walk in the park or a hike. Go swimming. If you don't like swimming, okay, fine. Then don't go swimming. Go dance in the rain. I don't know.
I was reading some reports that the most current, youngest technologically active generation is actually doing exactly all the things that you've just described.
Good.
They're turning off social media, and they're saying, we don't feel like being depressed anymore.
And social media, in my opinion, includes the television. I know it's not traditional. I know it's considered traditional media, but if you don't want to be scared, stop watching the news. Just that's the way it is.
The tone of it is plummeted.
And it's all sensational. Talk to your neighbors. Invite somebody over to have a meal. If you are scared of your neighbors, say, hey, let's have a meal. If it turns out after the meal that you just don't want to stay away from those weirdos, then stay away from those weirdos. It's okay. But
have a meal with me? I'm so scared.
I'm intimidating, but I wouldn't mind sharing bread with you.
Okay, well, there you go. But only bread.
Just bread. No
just
butter.
Bread. No butter.
No butter.
No
No, that's
sauce,
my butter.
no
That is
sauce.
my butter.
You want to come over and say hi to the camera?
Nah, I'm good. I'm good with lending my voice, but on my face yet.
Okay, not your face.
Yeah.
Okay, so now he's
one of
frightened
these
of
days.
us. All right.
All right.
No,
All
I'm
right,
afraid of
well,
us. I'm afraid of the people that's in that little black box there.
Well, one of them is Jeffrey Evans. You
I know
that
Jeff
guy.
Evans.
All right.
And
Now,
Jeff, you're doing it wrong.
well, let's wrap up this social media foray into bashing social media and engaging in our fine what is it, an operational contradiction?
Okay, so
wrap
wrapping it up, legendmasters.com. Check them out. They're fantastic.
They
That's
are
us.
us.
We'll see you soon, sir. So check out legendmasters.com and also check out Noggin Games.
All right, check out these shirts. We design like super cool, all over print apparel. We design all kinds of cool shirts.
I waka the line. There we go.
Waka the line.
Yeah, there's all sorts of goofiness. Yeah. So again, Noggin Games made me this freaking awesome custom die with my logo on it, and on this side is WTF, what's the function? Noggin Games is a fantastic family-friendly company. If you're in Cedar City, go check them out. Buy some games from them, buy some dice from them. If you're not in Cedar City, call them, ask them to order and ship things to you. They will do it. They're fantastic. They need to be in business, and we need to support good local companies like this. So, again, thank you very much for joining us. All of the 2 of you who've joined us for the live session and everybody else who decides to watch after hours. Now go to bed. It's 1:09 in the a.m.
This guy's got to wake up at like really early in the morning o'clock.
It's okay. I made the mistake of having a little bit too much caffeine a little bit too late in the evening. And my wife's working late too. So, all right. Thanks for joining us, guys. And you have a fantastic eventide.
Good night.